Welcome to the Hollywood Raw YouTube page, guys. We're happy to have you here. Make sure you like, subscribe, leave us comments, do all the stuff.
What are you waiting for? Let's go. I got a drug addiction to feed.
Welcome to the Hollywood Raw podcast. My name is Adam Glyn. Not joined with me. I said not joined with me today. If you're watching on YouTube, you're like, that Dax looks different. Dax is not with me today. Dax is on vacation. Joining me today is my friend of the show, fellow street journalist. If you're outside Craig's in LA, you'll probably run into him. He's a guy who runs around the streets 7 nights a week, trying to find celebrities and provide content for all the major entertainment news outlets out there. Please welcome past guest, Justin Foley. How are you, sir?
What's up, everybody? How you doing? Good to be here, dude.
Foley's great. And actually, it's funny. There's a mutual. Justin has a mutual friend. Justin and I have a mutual friend named Joe Andelardo. He's got this popular TikTok page where he does live streams. It's called Pure of Joy. Pure. What is it? What's the Joy of Everything?
It's called the Joy of Everything.
Joy of Everything. So basically, Justin Foley and Joe Andelardo are live streaming everything that goes on outside Craig's, from the craziness to the celebrities to the people that want to just see all the action that goes on out there. It's a really, really fun live stream. If you just want to, it's great background information. They do, and the content and the discussions between Justin Foley and Joe are so good and so entertaining. So I'm really happy you joined on the podcast today. People always love Justin when you're on the podcast. And another person who's joining on the podcast is another mutual friend of ours. Now, the person we have on today is a guy who, when I started in this field, and I think maybe Justin, when you started in this field, this guy was the guy we were like, man, he is the man. And he still is the man. But He was just so good at what he did. He was just charismatic. He was fun. He was funny. He was interesting. He was unique. He was just cool. We have Yuri on the podcast today. Yuri is one of Yuri and I and Justin all worked at TMZ together. Then he went on his own and just had amazing relationships with celebrities where he became so popular that they put him on Entourage. He went on Entourage and played himself on Entourage twice, which is pretty crazy. It's just everyone knew Yuri, and you'll see why. He's just a really cool dude. So it's really cool to we're going to shoot the shit with him and just kind of hear some stories. And again, I know, Foley, you're great friends with Yuri, so it's going to be a really cool conversation. I think the coolest part about this conversation, Justin, and I go back and forth between calling you Justin and Foley, or the Foley monster is what I call you. The cool thing about this conversation is three guys who actually run around the streets. And, I love these conversations when all of us sit in a room and just bullshit about our job. I think it's so funny and interesting, and I hope you guys at home like this, because I think it's just a very unique conversation to hear how these celebrities are really like. Would you say so?
Yeah, absolutely. And because it's one thing to be involved in it, like from another angle or perspective as whatever, but to be in the streets and doing it, the stories just write themselves sometimes. And there's just a wealth of things that happen to you out there that you cannot even imagine or believe, but they are true and they do happen. And a lot of times they're just really, really entertaining.
Justin, I've actually seen a lot of your content lately, and you've been hanging outside these movie premieres. What's the vibe like outside of movie premiere? Is it a good place to meet celebrities? Is it a good place to see celebrities? Is it good for you? Is it worth going to?
I'll say primarily yes, mostly yes. It is good. It depends. They're all set up differently. In other words, where will call is located, the access you have available to if they block it off. It's just conducive to the project itself and who's involved in it. It tends to be, I don't want to name names, but tends to be like certain companies are a little more private with that information, or how they allow the public to access with the celebrities. Others a little more open. But for the most part, it's great. The energy's there. The celebrities pull up. They wave to everybody. Sometimes they walk right in front of you. So if you're excited about meeting certain celebrities, I would say just go to their premieres and look them up and see when their movies are coming out and go. If you can. They have the premieres in New York and they have premieres in LA, obviously. So,
but it's funny though, Justin. You've been asked to, you personally, it's happened to me. If you go to these premieres and you hang out outside,
yeah,
they always need seat fillers, and they'll come to you and say, "Hey, do you want to come in and watch the movie?" Does that happen?
Yeah.
That happens to you pretty often, right?
Yeah. In fact, and so sometimes, like for me, I'm I go to the premiere, but then I'm booked on another thing and I've gotten invited. Oh, come see this movie. I'm like, I don't have 2 hours to go and watch this movie, but it is cool. And I've yet to do it, but I will probably at some point take them up on the offer and go and watch the movie. Cause that's kind of cool, right? To go and watch the movie at a premiere.
It's so funny when I was at another company and it was I'd always be hungry and I always looked like, I looked like shit, but I would go in and I would say, yeah, I'll go watch the movie. I would go in, I would get free popcorn, a free soda, and then I would leave before the movie starts because I just was like, yeah, I'll go get some free popcorn. And
extra butter.
Yeah, I just wanted something free.
This is my dinner.
I just want to be like, yes, got them. Like, so that was my way of getting to them. All right, Foley. Well, again, I appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah,
let me talk about our guest today. Again, Dax is away and Justin's here, and so I'm really excited to have Justin as my guest host on today's podcast. But our guest today is someone who, like I said earlier, is a legendary, long time. Again, he started at TMZ, then went on his own and was very, very successful. He was a camera guy running around the streets and met all the celebrities and almost became the celebrity for celebrities. People just loved running into him. That's the cool part of it. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Yuri. So I'm excited for this. Yuri, thank you for coming on the podcast. And I will say this firsthand. Yuri is a person, when I started this podcast with Dax, and obviously Justin Foley's with us today, but Yuri is one of the people I really wanted to speak to because Yuri, I think Foley would agree, I wouldn't be in the position I am in right now if it wasn't for Yuri, because Yuri is the original OG of camera guys on the street, because Yuri was so good at it and he was such a hustler and he was just so well spoken and fun and articulate and cool, where I felt like the celebrities wanted to speak to Yuri. So Yuri, thank you for coming on the podcast. How are you, bud?
Well, 5 months ago, Dax hit me up and he's like, hey, come on the podcast. And now we have Justin Foley as the guest host. Right? Yeah. I got the substitute or the relief pitcher. Where's Dax at?
Well, it's far away.
Dax is on vacation, but this is why I love this conversation because the three of us.
First of all, I want to say Justin Foley is one of my good friends. I love
What's
Justin.
Up,
he hit me up. He's like, you got to do it. I'm like, all right, let's do it. But go ahead, Adam. Sorry about that.
No, this is why I love this conversation. It's nothing against Dax. I love Dax. But I love having this conversation with three guys who've actually been through the field and fought through celebrities and bodyguards pushing us away and publicists saying you can't talk to their talent. We've all went through the trenches together. So this is going to be a really good conversation. I want to start with this, Yuri. How did you end up being a camera guy on the streets?
Oh, man, this was probably 07, 08. I was quitting my sales job. I just quit my sales job. And I met Harvey Levin at the gas station on Sunset Boulevard. At the time, the only thing I knew about TMZ was that it was a show, but I think the show was just running for like a week or something like that. And we talked, and he was like, hey, man, I like you. Want to be on my show? And I was like, sure, let's do it. I didn't have a job at the time. So I went in, and Harvey was the first guy I met. And that guy he was like my mentor. So for 8 years, I worked for TMZ. Harvey was my pretty much my guy. Yeah.
You met him at a gas station. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best. Mm-hmm. I love it. He's the only one that Harvey recruited.
Yeah, but he's tried recruiting other guys, I think, and I guess they didn't pan out. So I was the one guy that was like, so I was his guy. So if the other bosses wanted to get me in trouble, he'd be like, no, don't mess with him. So,
yes, you had carte blanche over there, man. We had to deal with some stuff, but
we dealt with some stuff. Yeah, Foley and I, we were night crew together. In fact, I trained Foley his first day on TMZ night crew. Remember that?
Yeah, come on. Of course I remember the Bauer Fridgephone, dude.
Yes, we were getting Elijah Wood. And we were what should we ask? What should we ask Elijah Wood? And he collects weird instruments, and it was there's no way he owns this. What's the weirdest name we can come up with? And it was Bauer Fridgephone. He actually owned one, right?
Yeah, no. So what happened was, so I know the story. We were at Mastro's, and I had worked day crew for a couple of days, and I didn't really like it. I was like, I don't know about this job. And my girlfriend at the time was like, you just keep doing it, and you need to make the money. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And then they said, well, you're going to go to train on night crew, and I was like, all right. Because I was kind of like uneasy about the job. I didn't really know. I met Yuri. He's like, yo, bro, jump in with me. And Yuri's got this big Jeep truck. I get in there, and he's like, let's go, dude. We're going to go to Mastro's. I got a tip. Elijah Wood's there. I'm like, awesome. And our vibe just like from the beginning was just like right on. And then we got there and he's like, all right, man, check it out. Do some research. Find out what you can find out on this cat. So I Google his name and it says he collects rare instruments. So Yuri goes, oh, bro, we got to find the rarest instrument. That's how his brain thinks. Like, how do you find the rarest instrument? So we Googled it and it said Bauer Frigiphone. We started laughing. Elijah comes out of Mastro's, sees us two jackasses, and he's like, oh, come on. And me and Yuri start walking, and he goes, hey, you collect rare instruments? And he was like, yes, I do. And he goes, you get the Bauer Frigiphone? And he goes, what? And
he goes, how the hell do you know about the Bauer Frigiphone?
And then they Googled it, and they go, it's a real instrument. And then Yuri and I were just like, dead on, bro. We were like, yo, we're homies, bro.
And it's funny because I don't remember the rest of that night, Justin, to you? I mean, obviously, night crew was usually night crew situations in LA. We would do the restaurants in Beverly Hills or Hollywood, Sunset. And then nighttime, we go to the clubs. And I'm sure you must have been with me at the night crew or the club times too. I don't remember what we did.
Nothing was more important. The core memory came from the Bauer Frigiphone.
Right. It was 13 years ago, probably, right? Maybe 14 years ago.
2000. It was fall of 2010.
Okay, so you started 3 years after me. Wow.
It was November of 2010. Yeah, it was November.
So let me ask you this, Yuri, when you're doing night crew, what are the hours for night crew as a paparazzi, as a journalist?
Right. So we started 5 p.m., went to the office and had a meeting. At the time, it was on Sunset Boulevard, on Sunset and Crescent. And then we worked till, I think, got to Hollywood, got to, our location where we did restaurants from like 6 to maybe like 9 or 10, took a little bit of break, and then went straight to the clubs. So from the clubs, it was like 11 to 2:30, 3 in the morning. So then we go back to the office, right? We go back to the office, back to Sunset, where they record the show. And then we would do our uploads or actually drop off our tapes. Because at the time we had tapes, right, Justin? They weren't.
Yeah, no, tapes because your roommate was the logger.
Right. Yes.
He was the logger. We had to go in there and we had to do it in real time because it was real time, because they had to put they recorded the tape down. So we had to hang out and kind of stick around in case there was questions or problems with our footage. So we would go around and eat bowls of cereal and tell stories about what, it was like debriefing for the night, right?
It's funny because that was like my fondest memories, right? Like we'd all get back to the office and all of us would sit around and just mess around and just laugh. For some reason, we were just laughing the whole time. Showed each other fights. Shows our videos, the fights that we get. The girls,
like, oh, this fool gets knocked out straight cold, dog. Like, whoa.
Right, the girls flashing. They want to be on, cameras and stuff. It was just like, it was the most. Yeah, it was fun. It was nice.
So this is at 3 in the morning. You're basically just hanging out in the office, just going back. Hey, what did you do that night?
Dude, we're all fired up on Mountain Dew.
Oh yeah. In fact, across the street, it was the Laugh Factory. And one day, I think we all left around like 4:30 in the morning, and like Dave Chappelle, like brought the whole audience to the TMZ office. Like, do you remember this story? Maurice, the security guard, was like, "Dude, you guys." So Dave Chappelle was like, "Is this?" Knocks on the door. "Is this TMZ?" And then Maurice is like, "No, this ain't TMZ." He's like, "Get out of here." He's like, "Oh, I thought this was TMZ," but they're gonna come to like punk us. But we just left the office. Like literally like 20 minutes before.
That's funny. I never heard that story.
Oh yeah.
Is that the night that Chappelle got into a tiff with Dane Cook? And this was Dane's night, and he said, "Okay, I'm going outside to smoke," and he pulled all the audience out, and then he walked. Is that the night?
I don't know. It's a good question.
Wait, Foley, tell me about this night that you're talking about because I never heard about this.
There's a story where Dave was performing at the Laugh Factory, and they said, "Hey, something like cut your time down because this is Dane's night." And Chappelle was like, "Great," and and then when he was done with his set, he said, "Hey, everybody, I'm going outside to smoke a cigarette. I'll take pictures with y'all," and whatever. And then the whole audience went out.
That's incredible.
He took the whole crowd out. So Dane was like performing to like crickets.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah. So I think
so Adam, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
In New York, how many guys? Well, first of all, I want to say this real quick. All three of us are in 3 different time zones.
Right
New
now.
York.
Yeah. I'm in New
Yes.
York, California, and you're in Hawaii right now, which is incredible.
Right. EST, PST, and I guess it's Hawaiian time. And you know what? Let me do something real quick. I kind of want to show you where I'm at right now. It's beautiful. Playing a lot of golf with the legend Jerry Magdaleno from Fresno. If you're from Fresno, you'll know who he is, the Almond Man. Hold on 1 second. But he set me up with a spot with his family.
Wow.
Yes. So that's Poipu Bay around there, and then it's the best snorkeling in Kauai. I mean, this is my balcony. I've been living this life for the past week, so life hasn't been that bad.
That's awesome.
I don't know.
I got a question for you. Going back to TMZ stuff, you get hired by Harvey. You come in there. You start you feeling your groove, doing your thing. You're obviously a natural at it. Do you remember your first shot? And do you remember your first like? Do you remember the first celebrity you shot? Like the first celebrity?
Yeah.
No?
Oh my God. Oh, that's a good one. Oh, my first shot. You got to let me think about this one.
Do you know your first big? How about this? Do you know your first big shot? Do you know your first big celebrity that you got that they were all like, "Yo, this is awesome"?
Like that's a crazy video.
Well, okay, wait. Who was Houston's husband?
Who?
Whitney Houston's husband.
Bobby Brown.
Bobby Brown. Yes. I think his name was Bobby Brown. So what year did you start, Adam?
I started 2010-ish. 2010.
Okay, so you guys started a few years after me. There was this guy named Christian Van Seth. He was my first TMZ trainer, and he was the most coolest cat. Right? He's wearing cowboy hats and just so he takes me to Medeo. We didn't shoot anything, and then he goes, "Hey, I got a tip for Bobby Brown. We got to go down to Glendale." Which is Glendale, is pretty far from Hollywood. I haven't seen him pull out a camera yet, So he takes me down there, and Bobby Brown is in the club, and he's like, "Oh shoot, Yori, get outside and go back to the car and grab the camera and shoot him." And mind you, I haven't seen Christian shoot anything yet. So I ran outside, I grabbed his keys, grabbed the camera, started shooting him, and I turned the light on full blast, right? Because you know how night crew, it's we had these big old cameras on our Z1Us, our Sony Z1Us, and you're never it pisses off celebrities when you blast them. But I had no idea, And I started asking him the most rudest questions. I thought that's what TMZ was. But really, obviously, the longer you do it, or you start realizing that's not how it is. It's not about pissing anybody off. But it was more were you doing drugs? How much were you drinking today? It was really. And then now looking back at it, I was like, that is horrible, And funny thing about Bobby Brown, he was my last big shot as a paparazzi. He's my last big shot. So he's my first shot in 2008 and my last shot 8 or 9 years later. In between those 8 or 9 years, I never saw Bobby Brown.
That's so random.
That's pretty funny.
So the last shot I got of Bobby Brown, I was, independent. I think I was uploading Splash, and one of the valet drivers at Medeo's hits me up. He's like, "Hey, Bobby Brown's in there," So I get down there, and he's like, his daughter just passed away, I think a couple years prior, and he just had a newborn. So he was stoked coming out of Medeo's. He was like, "Man, I just had a baby." He's telling me, and I'm like, "Okay, cool." And I get this video of him, And I think, some of the paparazzis were waiting for him at LAX, but they couldn't get him because they hit him through the back, right? So I got him at Medeo's, and he actually talked to me and told me that, he just had a baby. He's so happy, and this is a newborn daughter, and blah blah. And he's getting in his car, and I'm like, Bobby, I just want to let you know that I'm quitting the business. Have you told anybody that you just had a baby? He's like, no, I'm not. I was like, okay, because listen. I don't know if you remember me, but I filmed you 9 years ago. You're the first guy that I filmed, and you're pretty much going to be the last guy that I'm filming. And this is actually a pretty big shot for me. And I'm now an independent, so it depends on what I make, right? Because when we were working for the company, we're salary based, right? It was performance based, but it was also you're going to get an hourly salary, right? So Bobby looks at me. He's in the car. He goes, "You know what? I'm not telling nobody, bro. I got you." I was like, "Oh my God, thank you so much," because this could be a big paycheck for me. You know what I mean? So he leaves. I call the splash guy. He's like, "Send it now." I send it in, and the next day he's like, "It would have been a big one." I got paid like, it was still good. It was like $6,000 or something like that. 6 or 7 grand, which is one of the highest I've gotten as an independent. I didn't do that for that too long. I think I did it for like a year or so. And he was like, but it would have been like 25 if he didn't go to like, what fucking bar was that? He went somewhere on Sunset Boulevard and he like sang karaoke and he was like, "My girl." You know what I mean?
That's
like he told
funny.
everybody. Yeah, so people got him on like, social media, and they put him on that he had a baby. So
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, I think it's funny because once you go independent to when you worked at TMZ, because at TMZ, like you said, you earn a set salary, which we all kind of got the same just about. I mean, they would try to, no one really told. It was just a weird kind of how they kind of pay structure. But when you go on your own, you're hustling. It's last night I was out last night and I got a video of Andy Cohen asking about Wheel of Fortune and asking him if he ever got the call for the job. And I was hoping that Andy might have said, "Yeah, I got a call," or B, "I made a call, see if there was an opening for that job." Obviously, Ryan Seacrest took the position because that would have been a story, but he didn't really give me anything. I'm like, oh, if you just give me a little something, I could have made a lot of money right there. But Andy Cohen knows what he's doing.
Right.
Let me ask you this, and this question goes to you, Foley, Justin Foley, and you, Yuri. How did people on the street treat you? Did you like when? Especially in LA, there's tourists, there's people walking the street, they see you holding a camera and they'd be like, "Oh, there's paparazzi." Would you get that a lot, A? And B, were you offended by it? How would you react when people treated you like that or said that about you? You could clearly hear them say that stuff.
You go first, Yori. How do you feel?
It kind of depends on how the approach is, right?
Yeah.
There are people that we had, obviously the paparazzi were, still was a bad stigma, right? I think in the beginning of my career, it felt like that. I would get some like bad interactions with some certain people, usually drunk people, right? I like clubs and stuff, they want to look cool in front of people. But like later on, it felt like we became like an attraction for not just the Hollywood scene, but for the clubs and restaurants, like the managers and like the owners, it was aesthetically pleasing to see a cameraman there because it shows that their celebrities are inside this location. Right. So, I think for them, it was more like, because I remember in the beginning, a lot of like doormen be like, get out of here. We don't want paparazzi here. And Mastros was one of them. Remember Mastros, the guy who was running the door, like didn't even want us to walk up there. And I'm like, but freedom of press, we can walk up here. We can do whatever we want. We can stand wherever we want as long as we're not on private property. We're on the sidewalk. But then after that, they got rid of that guy. I don't know where he went. And a new guy came in as a door guy, and he was like the nicest person ever. You know what I mean? So it kind of depends on the person. And I kind of just veered off with like the, people coming from other states and stuff like that. That's what you asked, right, Adam?
Yeah.
Usually people want to take pictures with us, and we'll I think Justin can attest to this. We'll acquiesce to that. Sometimes we'll take pictures and we'll put the camera on them and make it look like, we're filming them, and it's cute and it's fun. I like to be nice like that. And sometimes they'll give you pretty good information too.
Yeah. No, I said like Foley is always at Craig's. And I say, like, Craig's, I'm sure, Foley, I asked you have probably a decent relationship with Craig. Like, if you see him, he'll say hi to you. But I'm like, at this point, because you help out their business so much, he should have, like, a plate of, like, chicken parm for you guys in the back. Like, "Hey, guys, help yourself. Like, here's some spaghetti. Let me feed you guys." Because you're part of the lore. You
like,
guys are part
like
of the
cats, the feral cats in the back.
Yeah, that's what I put. That's what just spaghetti in a bucket, and they could just eat spaghetti in a bucket.
Adam, enchilada, Adam.
Yeah, dude, give you something. Bottles of water, because you guys honestly keep that. You guys have helped out Craig's. You put Craig's on the map, not them. They have celebrities come in.
Brother, about the enchilada thing is an inside joke with me and Adam. And he wanted me to, we were at the Super Bowl and I was outside and Adam and Nick go inside. It's freezing cold. And Adam and Nick go inside. They go, you wait outside and shoot the celebrity. So I'm outside. It's so cold. I have no jacket. I'm out there with my camera. And these guys are inside. I look in the window. I'm like this. They're like eating steaks and dinner. And I'm laughing with these pretty. I'm like, whatever, man. I'm outside. And then Adam texts me, we're going to send you food. We're sending you an enchilada. I'm like, and that's like, how am I going to eat that in the street? My hands are going to get messy. What are you talking about? And then they start laughing at me. So it's
hilarious.
We all hung out recently a few months back at the Super Bowl. Me and Justin were working for one company. You were working for another company. So, but yet again, it wasn't competition by any means because we're all friends here. And that's what the fun part, that was the coolest part about it, is like obviously seeing you, get to hang out with you. But you've actually, you've worked how many Super Bowls?
So yeah, the Arizona Super Bowl was the one that TMZ called me back for. Before that, I did 8 for them. So this is the 9th Super Bowl.
You've done 9 Super Bowls and you did an Olympics, correct?
Right. Yeah, I was like their sports guy. I'm like a super sports nerd. I mean, Major League Baseball, NBA, NFL. Like, I don't know what it is because I don't have a good memory with a lot of things. But for some reason, I can spot like football players, baseball players, and NBA players really well.
I have a great story about Yuri. Yuri, the story when we were driving. You want to hear a great story about Yuri? Yuri and I are driving one night. We're going west on Sunset. It's raining. It's dark. It's like late at night. We're driving. He's telling me a story. He's like, yeah, man, whatever. And then he goes, oh, there's whatever. And he just pulls his truck over. There's this guy walking with a hood. Okay, it's raining out. He's wearing a hood. It's dark. He's walking this way. We go past the guy. Yuri pulls his car over, jumps out, pulls his camera out, and starts doing an interview. He spotted this guy out of the corner of his eye. Do you remember? It was who was it? DeMarcus.
Jamal Rosen?
Jamal Anderson or something like that?
Yeah, Jamal Anderson. He was walking on Sunset by Rock and Roll Ralph's. Yeah. And Yuri spotted him out of the corner of his eye in the rain at night, and the guy had a hoodie on. I'm like, bro, that is like some serious Rain Man shit going on. Like that's crazy.
I would do some weird shit like that. I don't know how my spotting skills were like. That's like such an important factor in being like a TMZ pap. Like, if you really think about it, like there's like so much aspects that has to contribute for you to be a good camera guy. It's funny because people would be like, well, we can find another guy, we can find another camera guy. But if you think about it, it was like, well, you got to find like a guy who can spot really well, who can engage, who can talk, who's humble enough to be out in the rain, right? Stand outside, but can still, keep up a conversation and ask fun questions. Like you need a CIA agent / ninja / comedian, Ryan Seacrest type of person. You know what I mean? So, I mean, like, kudos to all you guys for doing it for so long. It's a tough gig, and, it mentally wears you down sometimes. You know what I mean? It's hard to decompress after working that job for a while.
Yeah, it's very hard to decompress.
Bro, I want to ask you a question about, you had an impact on college sports when you did an interview.
Right, yeah. Okay, so it was the USC football team, Mark Tyler. I forgot what club it was. It was outside of Santa Monica Boulevard. And he was running back at the time. I think he was like a sophomore for the team. But it kind of sucks that I think it like hurt his draft situation. I don't even know if he got drafted, actually. He obviously didn't have a good, NFL career. But he was with 2 other USC players. And he said that USC pays him to play football, which is a super no-no in the NCAA rules. He was suspended a couple of games, I think maybe 1 or 2 games. And I think, at the time people were saying NCAA football players, maybe even the basketball players or like the big schools, the Big 5 schools, they would watch that video in orientation. Like, don't be like Mark Tyler if you get these guys talking to you. And he also said something like they all get up on Kim Kardashian's ass or something like that. Something funny. I don't know. But he was drunk, you know what I mean? And he obviously, I don't know if he got paid by USC, who knows? But he said that. It was all over. It was all over ESPN. It was all over the sports radio circuit. Yeah, that was a big one. And obviously, like, we talk about it all the time. We're not for that whole gotcha. I wasn't out there like, hey, are you getting paid? by your college football team. It wasn't like that. It was more like, yo, you guys are out, man. You guys are out partying at a really expensive nightclub, dude. Like drinks are like $20, $30, $25 a piece, you know? He's like, man, we all get, don't worry, we all getting paid by USC. You know what I mean? So
that is pretty wild. I mean, you guys must see, especially both you guys work nights as a camera guy. What's the craziest thing you've seen celebrity related? And what's the craziest thing you've seen on the streets as well as non-celebrity related? The funniest thing I saw on the street was, wildest thing I should say I saw on the street. Now, again, being in New York City on the streets, I don't work in an office, I'm on the streets. So you see the worst of things all the time. I mean, it's every single day you're seeing, and I see someone peeing on the street at least once a day. And like, I'm saying like junk out and everything. But the funniest thing I ever saw on the streets was outside the Bowery Hotel, right next door to the Bowery Hotel, is a restaurant called Gemma. It's a big celebrity hotspot. A lot of celebrities go there. And of course, a lot of celebrities go to the Bowery Hotel. When the weather's nice, everyone goes to Gemma and eats outside. But a homeless guy walked up one day around noon, and was everyone sitting out there having their lunch, drinking their mimosas for brunch, having a nice meal. That guy pulls down his pants and takes a dump right in front of everyone. Oh, no. And I saw from across the street, and to see everyone's reactions and to see this guy just taking a dump was probably one of the funniest but dirtiest and saddest things I saw. I mean, it was just, again, I can't afford that place. Actually, it's one of the cheaper places. I could afford that one, but just the reactions of everyone alone, it was like watching a movie. Just because I was across the street and I watched it happen.
Now, is it worse now than 10 years ago?
It's funny. Area? It's just different. It's weird. There's a weird energy. There's a weird vibe. I have to say, only in the last month have I said that it doesn't feel as safe. But it's not because I don't know. It's just different times right now. People act differently. The younger kids, just their way of wilding out is just different. It's not.
Right. Wait, so
not much charm.
That person was a homeless guy. Was it a homeless guy?
I hope he was homeless or like some crazy.
It was Adam's friend. It was Adam's buddy. What is he?
My buddy Chris. He just pulled down his pants. I was like, dude, don't go in the restaurant. Just go in the street. So, but it was the funniest thing. And honestly, I was sitting with 3 paparazzi across the street. We watched it happen. But to see everyone's faces in the background, honestly, it felt like a movie. You couldn't help but laugh.
Well, I mean, the reason why I say that is because I recently went back to Rock and Roll Ralph's on Sunset Boulevard. So right now, I don't know, you guys know this, but I live in Fresno. So I'm in Central California. I'm completely out of the whole LA scene until I went back to Arizona for the Super Bowl. So I went back to Sunset Boulevard, and that area where I had the apartment at, Justin, that's like tent city over there. There's like hundreds of homeless people sleeping in tents right outside my apartment building.
Yeah, it wasn't like
Sunset Hawthorne. It wasn't like that when I was there. Yeah.
Don't forget that Rock and Roll Ralph's was like ground zero for COVID. It was like there was like tuberculosis, TB breakouts, and all kinds of. The place is a giant petri dish, dude.
Tuberculosis.
Yuri, I was asking you a question because we did this in LA. It wasn't really a New York thing, but the Oscars. You worked the Oscars a lot. What was your?
Man. What's the question?
What was your take on the Oscars working for the coverage that we got, our access we had?
I hated it.
Yeah.
I hated awards season. I freaking hated it. It just felt like, I don't know. It kind of depends, I guess. If I'm around paparazzi game bangs, which is where there's a lot of paps around, it's kind of fun, I like
graphers and everything.
You know what I mean? You got the graphers, you got the guys who know who they're targeting, and I don't know. I just didn't really like it because everything was just so uniformed, right? You'd get the cars coming in, they get out the car, they wave at everybody, you walk out. Who wants to see that shit? You know what I mean? Who wants to see that B-roll? And then the after parties were kind of a lot of security was around. I mean,
yeah.
Award season was not a time where I was stoked to work our job. I don't know.
Are the celebrities cooler during award season because they're campaigning for their awards?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say no. I mean, the big dogs, like Brad Pitt, he doesn't need it, right? But when you get a person like, I don't know, somebody who's in a, you know, a movie that's nominated who hasn't been in the scene, you know, like that, you could probably get a good soundbite out of him or her, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I
Right?
get it.
I can't think of a name right now. Shoot, on top of my head. Foley, can you think of a name? Somebody who's not.
No, but people do change based on what they're promoting. You know, sometimes they'll be dicks for a while, and then all of a sudden they'll be nice. You're like, that was weird. And you look them up, and you're like, oh, they got a movie coming out or something. You're like, all right.
Right, and also you'll have their like publicists or managers with them at the time, and they'll kind of give you the little block.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
By the way, I can't express this enough. If you're a new actor listening to this, or you're kind of making your way and you're picking out a publicist or a PR, a lot of times these PR do them more damage than good, because it's actually in their best interest to talk to people and get their photos. These PR will act like they're like the second coming of Brando and try to block them and make them out to be the Beatles. And it's like, dude, you're not there. Like, talk to people, have a conversation so your audience, your fans can listen. Sometimes these PR, I think, will, you experience that, Yuri. I'm like, dude, I'm going to help talking to me will actually help them, or PR will block them. A lot of times it's not the actor or the actress, it's their PRs playing the role of bad cop. And it's like, for no good.
Right. Just be a person, right?
Yeah. And it's almost like the PR, it'd be in their best interest for the PR to be like, hey, find the outlet, find out the question, but then have them talk. And they don't do that. They just kind of look at us like we're.
Who's a celebrity that was cool in the beginning and then turned into who did a complete 180 on you?
Michael Strahan.
Oh,
yes, 100% yes, 100% yes.
He was
Michael
so
Strahan.
cool.
He was Michael Strahan. Before Live with Kelly, Michael Strahan was a great guy. Fun, cool, personable. He conversate with you, just nice to you. And then when he got the ABC job, everything, it was a total 360 to what he is now. I mean, he is not warm. He's not nice. He's not I don't have honestly, I don't have anything kind to say about him. I'm actually surprised the way he acts, that he's gotten as far as he has in his career, because he's just, it's not the same person.
Yeah, wow. That was a shock to me, because he was so cool with me all the time. I remember one time he was like, I always like your questions. He had so much fun doing interviews. And then all of a sudden one day, it's like the switch, like you said, it was like he flipped the switch and just turned into another person. It was like, you didn't know who I was. I'm like, dude, I know you. Like, I've interviewed you. You're always so cool with me. Like, super weird. Wow. Yeah, that was a weird one.
Who, is there someone else you have? Yeah.
Who's yours, Yori?
Shoot, I have Sam Worthington. Do you remember that guy?
I do. Is, right? Great actor.
Avatar.
Yeah.
When Avatar came out, he was like the coolest dude. I saw him at LAX. He was wearing a UFC sweater, right? A hoodie. Everybody thought he was a UFC fighter because I was interviewing him. He was the nicest guy ever. He went to the taxi stand and he was so humble. He was standing at the taxi stand and just chopping it up with people. And then I saw him again, like 2 years later at almost like the same location, like, in LAX, maybe like Terminal 5. And he was like, with his like thick accent, like, get the fuck away from me.
Really?
Like, whoa. I was like, what? Are you the same person? How did that happen? I don't know. Maybe there was like a bad, news article that came out on him. I don't know. So, I mean, he just completely.
That happens though. Yuri, what's your Yuri? You got to tell that, because I love the NFL. You got to tell the Al Michaels, dude.
Al Michaels.
So let me just talk for people who don't know what Al Michaels is. Al Michaels is a legendary NFL broadcaster. I mean, the guy's.
He called him Miracle on Ice too.
Yeah, he did Miracle on Ice. He's just an unbelievable broadcaster. Unbelievable. Just a legend. But yeah, I never heard this story. What do you got about Al Michaels?
Al Michaels was one of those guys where we always would film him in Brentwood and he would never get on the show. Remember that? He was like the guy who always played ball with us, but never got on the show. And one day I got him on the show. I said, all right, we got to use props. Because, if they can't get on the show, you got to figure something out. So I pull my phone out and I'm like, Al, you're the golden voice of sports. Record my voicemail for me. He recorded the coolest voicemail for me. And then like him and I became really cool. He got on the show and he loved it. And then I saw him maybe, I don't know, 2 or 3 months later, and he's like, Yori, what's up, man? And it was outside of BOA. And I asked him, I was like, hey, I just heard you call the Saints versus Raiders game. It was a preseason game. He's like, very good, very good. And I'm a Raider fan. I've always been a Raider fan since I was in the 3rd grade. I'm like, why don't the Raiders have a general man at the time, right? Why don't the Raiders have a general manager? Like, why aren't we allowed to blitz? You know what I mean? It sounds weird. I was like, Al Davis at the time, who was the owner of the Raiders, is he really a genius? Because that's what everybody calls Al Davis. He's the genius of, NFL schemes. Or is it just dementia? He goes, what do you think? He goes, I kind of teed it up a little bit for him. I kind of teed it up a little bit, and I kind of feel bad about that because Al Michaels, but he's a legend and he's a pro. You know what I mean? He was like, I think what he said was,
when Al Davis died, when are we going to win a Super Bowl?
Well, yeah, that's right.
You said, when are we going to win a Super Bowl? And he goes, when
are we
going to win? Dies.
Yeah, that's right. I go, so when are the Raiders going to win a Super Bowl? He says, when Al Davis dies.
Wow.
And the messed up part is Al Davis died like a week later.
Yeah.
So Michael's like, he was like, oh my God. And the Raiders and Al Davis, obviously heard the story that Al Michaels talked shit about him and he went on whatever. So this is so typical Raiders. Their PR said the only reason why Al Michaels said that about Al Davis is because Al Davis, put out the rumor that Al Michaels cheated on his wife. Like, what? So yeah, that was the
what a spin.
the Raiders response to what Al Michaels said to me. Yeah. And so then afterwards, obviously Al Michaels was like, guys like Justin will roll up, Chris Lance will roll up on him.
Yori did this. Yori.
Yeah. He's like, nope, Yori did this.
Like go ahead.
That was actually like a week after the USC Mark Tyler story. A week later. So it was like back to back. Like ESPN was running it, you know what I mean? All the sports radios were running it. But
I want to say something in Al Michaels' favor. The guy's a gem, and he is such an amazing person. And after all that blew over, he was like, whatever. He's just so great. If you want to read an autobiography, read his autobiography. It's amazing. But anyway, Al Michaels, and we've interviewed him since, and he talks about soccer and stuff. He's so cool because I asked him.
He's the greatest, man. He really is, man. I'm glad that nothing happened to him with NBC.
Yes.
I'm just because he is a legend. Like, that would have hurt me really badly, actually, if that, you know what I mean, if that hurt his career. And he's still the greatest of all time, and we're so lucky and blessed to have a guy like that calling sporting events for this country.
For sure. Yuri, have you ever got a celebrity and you got them doing something a little bit crazy and they say, hey man, delete the video?
Oh my God.
Especially on the night crew.
What did you see them doing? If you can name any of those people, what were the videos you deleted?
I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this. Well, because I'm on good gracious with the three-letter word, no? Harvey and I are back on speaking terms.
I'll tell you my video. Well, okay. It was a video that I had, and I've said this story before on air, but I asked Sarah Silverman if penises are ugly, and I deleted this, and she goes, no, not at all. I go, really? And she goes, let me see your penis, and I showed her I didn't like pull it out. I pulled my pants out, and she looked at me and she goes, no, you don't have an ugly penis. And I said, really? And then they're like, yeah, get rid of that video. Don't even send it. Like, just don't even. We don't want any like.
Yeah, no one's gonna use that anyway, right?
I mean, it was a funny video. I mean, come on, if I had that video saved, that's such a famous video right there. I wish I gotta run into Sarah and see if I could do that video again. But there's gotta be some. I mean, obviously, people actually say, hey, delete that video. You don't have to tell me the names, but what did you see them doing that you buried the video?
God, I can't remember any of them. There's got to be some.
Have you seen, what was let me ask you this, guys, and this goes to you, Foley, as well. Who's the biggest celebrity, and it's illegal now, that you ever caught or ever saw smoking weed?
Athletes. It's athletes. That's respect. Back then, by the way, let me just preface it by saying you got to realize where we came. It seems like it was yesterday, but it was 2012, 11, 12. Weed was still like, oh my gosh, now they're pushing for these. You got to realize at the time, these football players and NBA players, they're going through an incredible amount of strain on their body. They're being told to take really dangerous painkillers. I mean, these guys were on narcotics, and that's not healthy, but that was illegal, right? And weed was illegal at the time. So for them to have weed, news would pick it up. Oh my God, he's smoking weed. It was like, pretty ridiculous. And now they're starting to kind of realize that weed is probably a better option, right? So, but back then, if you filmed an athlete, it could have meant them being cut from the team or being reprimanded or being, suspended from games. And so, more often than not, when we're outside the clubs, we would see athletes smoking weed and then, being told to delete it, or we would just kind of not want to hand it in because it's like you don't want to ruin. I wouldn't have the moral compass tells you, like, why would you want to ruin someone's career because they're smoking weed when you in good conscience know that that's a better alternative than, say, something in the narcotic family. You know what I mean? Like, that's
right. Yeah, for sure. You have to kind of figure out like how to use your rapport benefit, right? Like, you want people to trust you. You know what I mean? Because you're out there all the time. You're in the industry. They know who you are, right? They know you by name, so you want to play ball with everybody. You know what I mean? You can't just be a robot and go, "Well, I shot this and I'm turning this in." You have to kind of like play it by ear a little bit. Like, I can't piss this guy off, because he can give me more in the long run. You know what I mean? So you got to figure that balance out for sure. It's just a street hustling. We're street hustlers, essentially. We're hustling for stories.
That's the best way to say it. We're hustlers. Yuri, speaking of hustlers, you, of all the guys out there, had probably one of the most coolest, most insane things happen to any of us, even to any paparazzi out there, where you got to get a guest role on Entourage. You were on Entourage. You played yourself. You played Yuri, which was pretty wild. I mean, it wasn't a huge role, but it was a cameo. It was a role that they obviously made around you. How did that all come about?
So Medeo's was my spot that I would always go to for restaurants. I would see Doug Ellen there all the time. He was the executive producer. Was he the creator? He might have been. He was the creator.
He's actually been on the podcast. He's the creator and probably the EP of Entourage.
And he's a great guy, by the way. Shout out to Doug. He's married to and had a baby with my friend Sarah, and they're amazing couple. They're so great together.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I saw Doug. I see Doug all the time, and then one day I said, "Hey, Doug, your show is authentic, but yet you don't have real paparazzis." He goes, "Yeah." He was like, "Yeah, do you want to play a paparazzi?" I was like, "Sure. Here's my card." He goes, "Have you ever acted before?" I'm like, "Nope, but I could act like myself, right?" And so I remember he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose this card," and he ended up losing the card because he called the office and asked, "Who's that Asian guy? That Asian paparazzi guy? I don't know his name. Could he come down and kind of do a shoot real quick?" And then went down there. They called me. I obviously did the rehearsal or whatever it was, the audition, and I got the part. Yeah, and I played 2 episodes, playing Turtle's friend.
That's amazing. So when you got that, did you have to join? I mean, it's crazy. You're in fucking Entourage, which is such a great show, classic show. When you did that, did you have to join the union from that, the Screen Actors Guild?
I had an option to do it, but I think at the time it was like $1,100, and I was just being a cheap ass. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. Now I'm sure it's like quadruple the price to join that union. Yeah. So I still get residuals from HBO. I'll get like $1.10 for each episode, like every couple of weeks, which is cool, kind of cool. But they send it to you in a check form, and it's hard to just go in and be like, "Yeah, I'm here to cash $1.10.97." But there is big one, once in a while we'll catch like a big check. Like if they go to a streaming platform, I'll catch like a $500 or $600 check.
Wow. Yeah. Can I ask you this, Yuri? When you did that, the payment for that role that you did, don't tell me the exact number. Is it over 30?
30 what?
30K? Not even close.
Way lower. Way lower. I'll tell you. Okay. I'll tell you. I think it was like $1,300-$1,400 a piece.
Yeah, Yeah, so I
It's
worked
a
in
1 day shoot. It's a 1 day shoot, you know, and it was like I don't care. In my mind, I make $3,000 in 2 days. You know what I mean? And plus
Yeah.
all these other residual checks I'm getting. And also, it's kind of cool. Like, if I want to make a new friend, like say I live in Fresno right now, right? If I want to make a new guy friend, all I gotta do is tell him I played myself on Entourage. Think about
It's
it.
true.
Think about it. It's like the male version of Sex in the City. Every
Yeah.
dude has watched Entourage.
Totally. Wait, were you on Simpsons too, Yori?
The what?
Were you on Simpsons too?
No, I didn't say
Is that Steve? Is that
Simpsons.
Steven? Oh, that was Stephen.
Oh
Maurice.
no, Steve and Maurice were on Family Guy.
Oh, Family Guy.
Wow.
Family Guy, yeah.
That's right. It's so funny because they drew Steve. It looks just like him.
They drew Steve like a
It looks just like him. It's so funny.
yeah.
He's got the. I love that.
So let me ask you
So,
this,
yeah.
guys. As we're all sitting around here, who are the top three coolest celebrities?
Ooh, you want to go first?
You go first. Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go in order. This is my top list. It's good that we're having this conversation because I just talked to a friend of mine about this, Jacob Castillon, which I want to throw a shout out to Jacob. Also a great TMZ paparazzi camera guy. One of the best. If I could mold the TMZ guy, Jacob would be that guy. Smart, witty, street hustler.
Sports.
And he knows it all. And we're going to his bachelor party after this Hawaii thing in San Diego. I would say Akon number one. And the reason why I say Akon, because I remember meeting him and he just threw a guy off a stage. Like he power slammed this dude off stage, and I'm like, oh no, and I have him on my LAX list. I'm like, he's gonna be the biggest dig. Oh no. And then when I saw him, Akon was the sweetest man ever. Two, because you know what's funny about this too, also, usually like the people that you think are going to be people that are mean on television are usually the people that are really nice. Right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
true.
Simon Cowell, Judge Judy,
Gordon Ramsay.
Gordon
They're all
Ramsay,
cool. Yeah, they're all nice.
Pierce Morgan, like all the people that are like screaming at people on television are the nicest people.
Yeah.
And then number two, I would go Shaq. I would go Shaquille O'Neal, the Diesel. And I remember Adam and I were just like, it's funny because Adam and I, we haven't really like hung out together because we're, obviously in two different coasts. We never worked together, and we got to hang out and work together in Arizona, which is a treat of mine. It was one of, I'll always remember that. And we actually had a couple drinks at that the Sports Illustrated party.
Yeah.
Remember that? VIP.
Great.
And
Yeah,
Shaq was DJing. And he's just the sweetest guy, man. Like, NBA players could be dicks and then they won't play ball with you, but like the most famous NBA guy will just give you every time of day.
Yeah.
And he might be the most like recognizable person in the world.
I'd say that. I agree with that. And Shaq, people know if you're listening, I'm sure you guys already know my relationship with him, but it's not what you hear about him. It's not fake. It's not an act. It's generally who he is. He's a superhero. It's unreal. Now, let me ask you this, guys. So were we at two or we
That's
at
two?
we need one more?
Let me get it through. I'm gonna cut this in half and put them together. Dustin Hoffman and Francis Ford Coppola, because they're two of my I'm a huge fan of both of their work, and they're both super nice to me. And I was just glad that sometimes you just worry when you meet your idol or your hero that they're gonna treat you like shit, and that kind of scares you. And I remember Francis Ford Coppola came out and he sat down next to me on the bench in Medeo's, and he like talked to me for like 5 minutes before I interviewed him. I have a picture with him. I would love to get it signed somehow, before it's all said and done. And the Godfather. You know what I mean?
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. Now, on the other side, I got to ask you, who are the top three biggest dicks? The biggest jerks, the biggest assholes. And then we also have to talk about why, to be more specific, we have to explain why they are not the coolest of people.
I think comedians, like big comedians, since all their material is written, they don't want to be funny on command. You know, Kevin Hart's a gem. I love Kevin Hart. He's so cool. He'll always mess with you. At least he did back in the day. I don't know now. But, man, you'll get guys like, what's that guy from The Office? Wes Helms or whatever. I was like really disappointed on him because I walked up and I was like, hey, man, I'm a huge fan of The Office. And he was like, fuck, you know what I mean? Zach Galifianakis, he's not that cool. Sacha Baron Cohen, like you would think Sacha Baron Cohen, he like messes with everybody. He would like, you know, he ran away. He puts his like hoodie down and he like sprints away from you like you're trying to attack him, you know, screaming down the street.
Will Ferrell's another one.
Will Ferrell, yeah, a lot of comedians like I just don't think they want to be. They don't want to feel like they have to be on the spot. I feel like. But also in the comedian's defense, I feel like it's also just playing devil's advocate for them. They run the danger of them being. It's like the hunters become the hunted. They run the danger of them being made fun of, and that could damage their sort of persona, their career. Like, because I feel. I get that.
Yeah, because I feel like that happened. There wasn't a story where they made fun of the comedian. They were like, dude, you guys are messing with me. And, you know, I think that happened with Dane where they were like, he was trying to be cool. And then the TMZ threw him under or ZM, we'll say a 3-letter agency threw him under the bus. And then he had and then it kind of, you know.
Right.
So then it's like you're kind of, I kind of understand why some celebrities were apprehensive with us because they either had a story written about them they didn't agree with or like or whatever, or they realized that they were at risk. So them being on the show was of no benefit to them. They were already at their career. If anything, they had more to lose. So that plays into their behavior sometimes, you know.
I would say Tom Green almost like kind of assaulted me.
So I had a really weird interaction with him because I connected him with a date. I introduced him to a girl and he was like dating her. And then she's like, you know, I'm like hanging out with him or something. I was like, that's so random. And then I ran into him. I was like, yo, I introduced you to this girl. And then he was being weird to me. And I'm like, it's so strange. He's an odd guy.
He's an odd guy for sure.
Interesting.
What's the story with Tom Green? What happened with him?
On Sunset Boulevard, he comes out, Tom Green, whatever, you know, early circa, it's probably 08, 09, you know, early TMZ days for me. He comes out and he grabs my camera out of my hand, snatches it. And that's like, you can't do that. You know what I mean? No. That's like, no. So I straight up grab, and the guy's a big dude. I'm probably like 5'7", 5'6.5". Dude's like 6'3", you know? So I'm grabbing the camera with him and he's like trying to drag me down Sunset Boulevard, screaming, saying that I'm like assaulting him, trying to steal his camera. So
was
I
he
like
joking or?
I don't know. I don't know. It's Tom Green.
Yeah.
He looked like, you know, like he was in this mode and just possessed, just walking with me with the camera. And I'm like, I'm not letting this thing go. So I pretty much just straight up like judo him, put my leg in front of his, you know, body, and I just throw him over. And I just take it out of his hand, and I'm like, I gotta get the fuck out. And then I actually reported it, and I put it not to, you know, to the company I was working for, TMZ. And you know, obviously it's a incident report because my camera actually broke. The handle broke off.
Interesting. Yuri, I got a question for you. What if out of all the interviews you've done, which is so many, is there any interview that stands out as your all-time favorite interview, the one that really is special to you?
I think making something out of nothing was something that I feel like I had some sort of talent with. Like for instance, like DeMar DeRozan was, you know, NBA basketball player, and he's not fun, you know. Talking to him isn't great. But I'm thinking that day I didn't shoot anything like the day before. I shot a donut, you know, a 0, and then it was like late in the day. I'm like, I got to shoot something good. I got to make something happen. And there was a Japanese show that had fake Johnny Depp and Mr. Charles. Johnny Depp. That's what the producers would call him. And then John, you know, obviously I filmed fake Johnny Depp. He's like, oh, I'm going into dinner at Mr. Charles. You know, he goes into dinner. DeMar DeRozan and his crew, his family are all in, you know, Toronto Raptors player at the time. He goes in. And I'm standing there waiting, and these 2 lawyers come out from Beverly Hills. They come out, they're smoking a cigarette, and they're like, hey, do you know that Johnny Depp is in there? And I'm like, that's not Johnny Depp. He's like, no. I'll bet this on my children. That is Johnny Depp. So in my mind, I'm like, if these dudes believe it's Johnny Depp, then probably DeMar DeRozan will also. We know it's not Johnny Depp, right? Because he would never just walk in at Mr. Chow's like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But like the regular person who's not in the industry would never. He looked and talked just like Johnny Depp, and there was a Japanese camera crew that was following him around, so it really looked like he was like some famous dude. So they were playing this whole prank on like people from pretty much LA. This TV show in Tokyo. So when DeMar DeRozan comes out, I tell the Japanese producer, I go, when that guy comes out, when the basketball player comes out, you bring Johnny Depp out. And then I'm going to convince him that he's Johnny Depp. And then DeMar DeRozan's like, oh my God, Johnny, what's up, man? And they like, Johnny's like, hey, what's up, man? And they come over like to the valet area and they like exchange phone numbers and they take pictures together. And like DeMar's whole family is like, oh my God, fucking Pirates of the Caribbean, bro, what's up? You know, so that was kind of cool. Making something out of nothing. And that to this day, it's kind of funny. And I think DeMar DeRozan got completely played by everybody. Like all his teammates made fun of him because he never talked to us ever again.
That's funny. That's great.
Yeah.
So I want to wrap this up with a real quick speed round with you, Yuri. And I don't want you to overthink anything. I want you just to think of like the first name that kind of comes to your head when me and Justin Foley kind of go back and forth with this. So we're going to go back and forth. I'll start it off. All right. Is that okay, Justin?
Yeah. Rock and roll, baby.
All right. So my first question. All right. The scariest celebrity.
Oh, that's easy for me, dude. That's so easy for me. Bruce Willis.
Why is that? Why was he scary?
Bruce Willis, man. It was a setup shot. Harvey was like, hey, man, Yori, I need you to go shoot Jerry Weintraub and Bruce Willis. Jerry wants to push his Jerry Weintraub's the Uber producer. And I go, who's Jerry Weintraub? And Harvey looked at me like, if you don't know who Jerry Weintraub is, you shouldn't be in this industry. And I go, Jerry Weintraub? Of course I know that guy. Yeah, he's great. Producer for Ocean's 11, and he's like the man of Hollywood. They actually had a steak named after him at Dantana's.
Yeah.
So he's like, Bruce Willis is gonna be with him, and then Bruce had this like look on his face. He just stared into your soul. And I remember just being a little nervous, and he kind of scared me.
Wow. Who was your most fun celebrity?
Shaq.
Yeah.
I think Shaq is just always fun.
The best looking male.
Best looking male?
The guy who you're like, man, that's a good looking dude. In person.
Oh man, Justin Foley.
Thanks, I moisturize.
You know what? Adrian Grenier.
Adrian Grenier from Entourage.
These very beautiful eyebrows.
All right, I'll ask you. That's Adam's personal question. Mine is, who's the hottest chick? Who's the hottest chick?
Ooh, the hottest chick. There's so many. I remember I met Lauren London. I was like, wow, she's really pretty. Let's see. God, there's so many, man. Oh, man. Hayden Panettiere. Pretty
hot. Wait, hold on. I know how much time we have, but if you want to tell a quick story, you were on a flight with her. You were on a plane ride. She was right. Next to you, right, in the plane.
Yeah. Her and her friends coming back from the Dallas Super Bowl. Yep, that was fun.
I was so jealous.
You guys hung out on the plane, right? You guys were like BSing?
Yeah, we barely talked. You know what I mean? Her friends were doing her thing, and
I thought y'all were besties, dude.
I wish. But I did see her at Boa, and I was like, "Do you remember me?" She's like, "Oh yeah, of course I remember you." I was like, "Yeah, I'll come in and have a drink with you at Boa." She's like, "Yeah, come in," and I never went in.
Yeah, she's very pretty in person. Yeah, very
pretty, very, very attractive. Yeah, very pretty eyes.
Because of good energy. She has good energy, good like vibes, like good
energy,
person.
Great energy. Yeah, and then she got married to Klitschko, and then I think she stopped that energy stuff. I don't know.
No, she's always been good.
She's always cool. Okay.
Okay.
And then go ahead.
No. You got another name?
And then I was just gonna say, like, just seeing all these models out there, they're just like, you can't even like stare at them in the eyes. There's just so many hot women and like in Hollywood. You know what I mean? It's captivating. Mm-hmm.
Okay, best spot to run into a celebrity.
Ooh. I'm gonna be biased about this, but I'm gonna say Old School Medeo's on Beverly Drive. Yeah, because I have time to talk to them, you know? Or I would say even maybe LAX. The lighting is good. You don't have to carry any lights with you, and you have time and you have their flight information, so you have time to, you know, prepare and get ready for a good question.
The most random place that you caught a celebrity at?
Oh shoot! Up the parking lot at Whole Foods.
Oh, okay, that's a good parking lot. Who was it? Do you remember who it was?
I don't know. I always used to catch people there.
Yeah.
I always did. Toby Maguire was one of them.
Or also,
by the way, Toby Maguire hates us.
Oh yeah, he hates everybody. But also Bristol Farms.
That's what I meant. Bristol Farms.
Oh,
Bristol Farms. Yes, that's what I meant. Yep. Mm-hmm. On Beverly Drive.
Yeah, that's a good one. Which, by the way, fun fact, not to cut you off, but fun fact, that Bristol Farms on Beverly, that was the location of a restaurant back in the day, old Hollywood, called Chasen's. And they had every major celebrity would go there. They would do the party after the Oscars and stuff. And that's where Ronald Reagan used to go. And that's where Frank Sinatra used to go. And they had a famous chili there. So if you're into Hollywood lore and old places of Hollywood, it's the Beverly location of Bristol Farms. It's where Chasen's was. And that was the spot to go back in the day.
Let me ask you this. Who would be the celebrity that wanted the attention the most? That loved, that like would ask?
You know what? I think this is a bullshit situation. Remember when David Beckham came to LA?
Yeah.
You guys remember that?
He was part of Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He would like try to run people over with his car. Him and Victoria, they would like literally get in their Rolls Royce and just like plow. But they would give their information out to agencies to which restaurant they're going to go to. And there would also always be a gangbang waiting for David Beckham. It's like, there's no way that they're not giving that information up. So they obviously want paparazzis to follow them, but they want to make it like this mystique that they don't want to be followed. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got in a huge argument with one of my lead cameras at the time. Because he's like, hey, you gotta go shoot David. You gotta go shoot Beckham. And I'm like, nah, I'm not doing that. He's like, bro, I'm your lead camera. You gotta go and wait for David Beckham. He's that coy. I'm like, dude, if I stand, what I'm gonna do? Stand there for 4 hours for this guy to almost run me over? Like, if you watch the show, that's not what they don't even use that. So essentially, I'm wasting 4 hours of my time, their time, everybody's time. You know what I mean? Let me go and shoot this guy who's gonna give me a soundbite. And I always thought David Beckham was a genius. That's my opinion.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I got one last question, and then Foley, you give one last question. Who is the biggest party person?
I'm not asking yeah.
Of what?
Who is the one? Who is the party person that always?
I'm not asking that.
XTNZ?
Yeah, who is the party
our
person?
night crew?
As far as no, I'm saying not in night crew. I'm saying a celebrity.
Oh, I thought you said the night crew guys.
No.
I had some pretty. I'll tell you some pretty good ones. Jacob Cassione.
Who?
He's a camera guy.
I would say LMFAO.
Oh, yeah. Party, those guys.
Party Rock. Yeah. Party Rock. They're the funnest, and I actually became friends with those guys during the height of Party Anthem. Two of the coolest guys ever. Their manager Q and all those guys. All those dudes are awesome. They invited me to a lot of parties and a lot of events, and went to their house a few times. And those guys, Sky Blue and Red Foo. Those guys they're party animals, legit party animals. Their whole wall had panties and thongs on them. You know what I mean? The girls would be there all the time, and we'd be taking 151 shots, and just it was a fun time. Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Easy on the fail.
Sheesh, that's insane. All right, Foley, you have one last question.
No, I'm not asking this question.
Well,
No, I'm not.
All right, the question Foley wanted to ask you.
No, it's not. Hold on. Adam gave me this question, and I go, I'm not asking this. You ask
I'll
it.
ask it, but Foley came up. He told me. The question was, who was the horniest celebrity? And what I mean that, who was the person that was always like sexual crazy, like going after a partner? And it could be girl, it could be guy. Who was the person that was obsessed?
I don't even know.
Okay, maybe this is early too. This is, I think, a little early for Foley in LA. This is like 08, 09, 10. But I remember Tila Tequila, because remember around that time, like MySpace was still popular.
Yeah, she was like that's right. I forgot about her. She had that Lamborghini that she drove around.
Yeah, and she'd be around like being super horny.
Yeah,
I would say Tila Tequila.
That's actually
that's a good answer, right?
Yes. It is a great answer. I haven't heard that name in a while.
I know.
Yuri, I so appreciate coming on the podcast. I actually had to move my laptop because my laptop was dying. But I appreciate coming on and taking the time. Where could people like keep up with you, find you, kind of, they want to keep up with Yuri and know what's going on in your world?
So I have a Twitter and Instagram at Yori U, at YORIU. Come and find me. Twitter, I'm more about, crypto, learning about crypto. Stan account pretty much of the Anaheim Angels or the LA Angels of Anaheim, however you want to call them, because I'm a Shohei Ohtani fan. Yesterday, he hit 2 home runs, 10 strikeouts. The guy's a beast. I don't know if you're keeping up with baseball, but for some reason, mainstream media doesn't ever talk about him. Is it a race thing, guys? Is it a race thing, guys? Is he because he's Asian? He's Japanese?
No, it's because he's not a Yankee.
Is that what it is?
Yes.
Aaron Judge. I know you guys are both New Yorkers, right? You guys are both East Coast dudes. Actually, Foley, you're from Jersey.
No, I'm not from Jersey. I'm from New York.
Oh, you're from New York. Okay. New Yorkers. All right. Aaron Judge does not deserve that MVP. Shohei should have won 2 years in a row, and then this year he's going to unanimously get it again. Prove me wrong, guys. Prove me wrong. Aaron Judge. He broke the record AL home runs. He broke Roger Maris's record of home runs. So you got to give it to him. But when have you seen a baseball player do what he's doing?
It's incredible.
Hitting and pitching.
Put him on the Yankees, dude.
Guys, I don't know how to tell you this, but about 70% of our audience is women, and they don't care.
They have no idea. The demographic is like, please don't talk about
Well, let me tell you something. The women that love baseball listening right now going, yes.
They agree with you.
Dude, he's Japanese. And also, hold on. A lot of women like him. He's a good-looking guy.
He's a very good-looking dude.
Women baseball fans are smart, and they know how to party, dude.
Okay. Oh, yeah, they do. Yep. Yes, they do.
Yuri, dude, thank you so much for taking the time, dude. I really appreciate it. You got to come back.
I appreciate you guys having me on, man.
We got to have some more stories with you. We're going to do part 2 at another time because there's so much more stories and there's so many more layers to really discuss because
for sure
it's so good. But, dude, good to see you. Thank you for everything, brother.
Thanks for coming on.
Dude, that was a really fun talking to Yuri. I mean, Yuri's been doing this longer than we have. He started before we did. And when he was doing it, it was during the tough times, the heyday of paparazzi stuff, when it was not as accepted, but it was more like everyone tuned in, but there was still a tough stereotype with it. I mean, it was just weird on all ends.
It was the tail end of the Britney era, which was really chaotic and gnarly.
How would you say Yuri was as a guy in the streets? Like, why was he so good on the streets?
I'll tell you why. He's a natural salesman. And salesmen and saleswomen will tell you that, they will tell you themselves, and their friends and family would tell you that they have an innate ability. It's not something you can be taught or something you can learn. It's an innate ability to connect with people on multiple levels and to understand the most important thing about doing a sale, which is listening. Yuri's a great listener. And that really is an integral part of why he was so successful at what he did.
No, it's awesome. I got to appreciate Yuri. Thank you, Foley, for coming on the podcast. People, Foley, where could people kind of keep up with you and follow your sort of trails as you're running around Craig's in LA with their camera?
Yeah, as of right now, the best place to find me is on Instagram. That's where I'm most active. That's where I post things and pictures and things like that of celebrities that I encounter. And that is my Instagram, which is the letter I, the letter M, Justin Foley. I'm Justin Foley on Instagram. That's the best place to get a hold of me. And that's where I'm most active.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Thanks for joining us, Foley. Thank you guys for watching on YouTube. Like and subscribe. If you're on Instagram, we're on Instagram. If you're on TikTok, we're on TikTok. If you're on Facebook, we have a private Facebook group called Off the Record, which I highly suggest you join. Next time, Dax will be back with us. He's just on vacation right now. He deserves it. He works hard. And we'll see you guys later. Thank you.
What's up, guys? If you like that video, there's plenty more where that came from.
Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell so we can just feed you all the goodness daily.
Hurry up. Come on, let's go.